You know, sometimes it's okay to say that this isn't good enough and move on to something else. Case in point, today's subject matter. This is Night Striker, released in 1993 for Sega Mega CD from Taito, an adaptation of the 1989 arcade game of the same name. You may not have heard of this game because it was never released outside of Japan until Sega decided to stick this Mega CD port onto the Sega Genesis Mini 2 mini console thing from a couple years back, which is what we're playing this thing off of. And amazingly enough, as of this recording at least, no official means of playing the arcade original outside of Japan. No arcade archives release, no title compilations, unless there's some obscure plug-and-play thing that I don't know about, which is probably likely. And not long after I did that initial dep did I realize, oh yeah, they did put that game out under a compilation called Operation Night Strikers. I probably forgot about that one because it had a stupid name. Oh well. But I guess someone must have heard of this thing because they made a sequel, remake, whatever you want to call it, last year called Night Striker Gear, and I have not played that one. Heard relatively good things about that one. Heard good things about the original arcade game too, which is nice to hear because Night Striker on Mega CD is, So here's the premise. You control a futuristic car that flies around the screen in a super scalar type rail shooter type thing, where you're running along a given path, shooting down enemies, avoiding obstacles, and basically trying not to get yourself killed. At some point, you reach a boss that you have to kill to move on to the next stage, which you could then pick from one of two given paths, which is always a staple in these Taito shooters, is being able to pick your own path and sort of creating your own level of difficulty, such as it is. Control's straightforward. D-pad moves your ship around, one button shoots one shot, and another can be held down for rapid-fire action. No limited ammo, no special weapons or upgrades. Just fly, dodge, shoot, survive, watch your shields because once those are gone, you're dead. And the game will tell you as much in case you need clarification. Now you do have 3 continue credits to keep going, but your score resets to 0, so if you care about a high score, that's going to be a problem. But otherwise, you have 4 chances total to defeat the overwhelming challenge of Night Striker and its incredibly pixelated graphics. Yeah, we might as well get out of the way. Night Strikers looks dreadful. Not so much in the sense that the scaling effects are bad or the frame rate's choppy. No, the scaling's fairly smooth from what I could tell, and the frame rate holds up fairly well even if it isn't the smoothest. The tunnel you fly through in between stages doesn't look too bad, all things considered. There's bits and pieces that are decent looking. But then you have these graphical assets, the ships, the pillars, the bits of background scenery and what have you. Apparently they had to scale down a lot of this stuff to fit the CD, and it shows. Everything looks pixelated, indecipherable, and awful. You have a player ship on screen of sometimes some things that move around to shoot down, some glowy things to avoid, the occasional bits of scenery, I guess. You know, I almost want to compare this to playing Doom on MS-DOS back in the old days, where you had the option to play the game with high quality textures, which looked alright for the most part, or you could play with low quality textures that looked like ass, but the game would run faster. Actually, low detail Doom isn't anywhere near as bad as I remember it being. Just that things get blurrier the farther out you go. So, nearsighted Doom is what this is. Night Strikers on Mega CD is running on low quality, low resolution settings where everything looks like ass, but the game speed holds up fairly well at least. Now the good news is that it only looks bad, and that makes it harder to decipher some things, especially up close. That's the only real detriment. But if you could get past the surface level blemishes, it's actually not too bad of a game. Yes, it's a bit overly simplistic in terms of substance, but you fly a car around, third-person perspective, you shoot things, try not to explode. It's an arcade game after all. As far as that basic premise goes, the game ain't too bad. Controlling your car is okay, it's fairly responsive, it doesn't feel too awkward, and you have an option to flip the Y-axis on the D-pad, which is a choice for some folks, I suppose. And again, it's not like the frame rate is completely jank or the scaling effects are completely awful. It's smooth enough to be workable and rarely becomes an issue unless I'm fighting stuff that's like point blank, or I'm fighting the underbelly of a battleship with multiple turrets. That's the only real trouble spot where things start to chug a bit, but other than that, this was largely fine. Just to throw another positive in there, Night Striker does have a hell of a soundtrack, comprising a lively collection of highly energetic and fast-paced techno beats that just gets the adrenaline running during these stages. You have the option to play either the original arcade tracks or an arranged version of the same tracks, and really I could go either way. They both sound pretty good, so it's a matter of preference in this regard. Sound effects are fairly crisp, and there's a bit of vocal work in there if you can make those out over the explosions and stuff. All of that sounds as good as the graphics look bad. Overall, Night Strikers on Mega CD is best described as thrilling, fast-paced shooting action complemented by an exciting soundtrack hampered by a healthy dose of Vaseline splattered all over your view screen. If you could get past the horribly compressed and downgraded visual assets on screen, you'll find a pretty decent no-frills rail shooter thing that's fast-paced, easy to get into, and has some slick tunes to boot. That said, it's not the best version out there. I know there's also Saturn and PlayStation ports available, only in Japan, ugh. But all this did was make me curious about the arcade original, which you can get via the compilation known as Operation Night Strikers, which includes Night Striker and 3 other games, I believe. I keep confusing Night Striker with Night Stalker for some reason. I keep thinking about the Intellivision game for whatever reason. Don't know why, but anyway.